Right.
Welcome home.
Ooh, big trip. Big trip.
Made it out alive.
You may now address me as Buddha.
Buddha. You were, I thought you were a completely different person the first time I talked to you after you got out.
In what way?
You, like you said, you're more conscious of when someone's speaking to actually listen to what they're saying rather than to formulate your response while that person's speaking to you. So I think that's a good takeaway for everyone. A good
Yeah,
learning lesson.
I think the punchline, if you were to distill the whole 10 days down to simple components, it's that we spend very little time in the present moment. We spend all of our we think we're in the present moment, but we're really not. We're in the future or we're in the past, and we have all of these conversations going on in our head the whole time while I'm talking to you, while you're listening to me. There's a constant stream of just stuff going back and forth. Conversations. Oh, I wonder, did I take the food out of the oven? What time do I have to go to work tomorrow? What's Nick doing? I have to call Cole back. Can't wait to see Delaney. Whatever's going on, it's just things are popping up all over the place, and it just distracts you. So I think that's the whole exercise is about that. It's to quiet that news feed, and it's an interesting process.
I mean, it's difficult to do from someone who doesn't meditate at all. I can't shut it off. So I think it's interesting to hear you talk about while you were in there, you were able to have certain, meditation times where you were able to fully shut it off. And I think that's really interesting because I've never experienced that because I've never practiced meditation. So I always have things going like everyone else. But I think that's interesting to hear that you're able to fully shut it off.
I shut it off. I shut it off. I shut it off. I can't tell you how many times, but dozens of times I would find myself in a spot where it was complete silence. I mean silence, there was complete surrounding consciousness silence, but there was also complete mental silence, which was a really fascinating thing. And then you spend all the time trying to get back there. So if you took the whole 10 days, first, I would say I probably didn't achieve something like that until somewhere around the 6 o'clock session on day 4. So at that point, I've done 1, 2, 3, 9 times 2, 18 hours or 20 hours of meditation, and hadn't gotten there. 6 o'clock session on day 4, I remember I was leaving at 5 o'clock. The 2:30 to 4:30 session on day 4 was one of the low points. I was ready to go, and one of the guys convinced me to stay. You could talk to the workers, very low tone, quick question, quick answer. So I was leaving, and guy said, "Why don't you stay?" He actually looked like Mark Flaherty, the worker, and he said, "Hey, try this. I think it'll help. Try to sit through one more session. Try sitting differently." And I did, and that 6 o'clock session was the best session I had had so far, and it was interesting. It was so long, and it was so different, and it was so difficult, and it was so excellent, and it was so awful. It was everything. It was literally everything. At one point or another, it was everything.
So how did your meditation change? Because I know you've been using that app and meditating a couple hours a day. when you say you didn't achieve that like pure, I guess, clearness of your mind until day 4, did you experience that before you went when you were meditating outside of this
No,
place? No.
no, not even close. I think the stuff leading up to it was more just to kind of get me in a position to be ready to do this. Almost like training for a marathon is the way I treat it. So I did 110 days on that app, and I did 110 days on that app, about an hour a day. Only about 10 minutes of meditation a day, but the rest of the hour was listening to podcasts about mindfulness and meditation and concepts and discussion. So it was kind of getting me in the right mind frame. But no, I'd never experienced anything like it. I had tried to meditate. Even when I would meditate, it would be more about just count my breath, realize my breath in, out, in, out. So I would be thinking about breathing.
Yeah.
The moments that you have that stillness, you're not thinking about breathing. You're not thinking about anything. There's no thinking. You close, you get to a spot where it's just still, and there's no external audio noise. There's no internal thought noise, and you're still. And the silence gets really loud. That was an interesting dynamic. So it's so silent that it gets loud, almost deafening. A buzzing or like an electricity sound in your head elevates. The quieter it gets, the louder that gets when you're really there.
It just sounds odd to me because I'm someone who's never meditated or tried to meditate, and I don't really understand it. So it's just interesting, this whole topic, because I don't have like too much background on it at all. So it's just very interesting to me.
I don't think anybody really has too much background. So one of the things that was intriguing about this, so this to me was like, you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? So the whole idea of a 10-day retreat was like Close Encounters of this Third Kind, where the guy would sculpt the mountain, or the lady would paint the mountain, right? They just
Yeah.
kept, right? So that was this. This would keep coming up. This started coming up 20 years ago, and it comes up, and then it disappears. Then it comes up, and then it disappears. So it really started coming up a lot about 5 years ago, a couple times a year. And I had signed up a couple of times, and I had canceled.
Hmm.
So I knew I had to do it, and I didn't know why, but I knew I had to do it. So that was kind of in the back of my mind the whole time. There was something this was something that I had to do. And, being sober, there's, the 11th step and prayer and meditation and all that. So I'd never done it. But part of the research coming up to this, when you listen to the Indian guy who explains this whole thing, who runs these centers, he's dead, but he has 240 of these centers around the world. He explains to you that here's why it's 10 days. We've decided that it takes that period of time of full immersion to get the real benefit out of meditation. And we want you to get the full benefit. You can't get it in 3 days or 4 days or 2 days or 8 days. It's 10 days. So that was the first thing that kind of caught my attention. Okay, there's a why to this 10 days. And then the second part was from the Indian guy saying, this is going to suck. It's going to be terrible.
Hmm.
And then it's not. But prepare for it to be just excruciating. And then it's not. And it's like that for everybody. So know that you're not having a unique experience when you're sitting in there and you're miserable. And I think that's part of the brilliance of the no communication. And this was the other interesting part. So I knew it was silence, but I didn't think it was really silence. I figured, maybe you could whisper or you could hang out.
There'd
So
be
it
some
is
type of noise.
not only is there no verbal communication, there's no bodily communication. So you're not making eye contact with anybody. And they tell you that. You're to be silent verbally and bodily. You don't make eye contact, no hand gestures, nothing. So that was really odd. But then became really comfortable. It was easy to kind of settle into that. So much so so they break that noble silence, they call it, on the ninth day, no, on the 10th day, on the 10th day at 11 o'clock, they break that noble silence, and you can start to talk. And now you haven't spoken to 60 people that you've lived with 12 hours, 18 hours a day, that you've seen, and you've created nicknames and stories for everybody that you see. And now you're ready to talk. And I remember when they started to talk, they would congregate outside my room because that's where the directions of the day were.
Hmm.
And it started to get loud, and then very quickly it was getting louder and louder and louder, and it got overwhelming in a period of 30 seconds. So much so, I didn't run to engage to talk to the guys. I put my shoes on and I went out in the woods for about a half an hour and just kind of settled back in, and then came back to the cafeteria and then had some really good conversations with a half a dozen guys, and met some interesting guys. And the stories that I had made up about these people couldn't have been further from the truth when I had the ability to talk to them. But everyone had a nickname, and everyone had a backstory, and I wasn't even close on any
Yeah.
of them.
So you said at times you had like super traumatic experiences and it was like terrible. And then you also had really incredible, amazing experiences. Do you think that the people that were there with you like shared a similar experience that you had, kind of like a roller coaster of different emotions throughout the 10 days?
So, I had detailed conversations with one, two, three, four, maybe a dozen guys of the 60. And the overwhelming takeaway was that the overall experience, now that you were done, was phenomenal. There was not one person that said this was in its entirety the worst thing I've ever done. Everybody was changed and peaceful and calm, and that. And most people described more about their miserable moments and not their joyous moments so much, in that small group. But again, the overwhelming theme was this was incredible. And then we would talk about the difficulties. Now, of the 12 guys that I probably had detailed conversations with, they ranged in age from 81 years old to 24. They ranged in experience from guys that had done this 12 and 13 and 14 times. This is their 14th 10-day retreat, to guys like me, where this is the first time that they've done this, with very, very limited meditation experience prior. So, just a gamut of range of different people. And there was 60 women at the same time. My thought when I went there, I thought there was going to be a total of 30 people, 15 guys, 15 girls. And it was 120 people, and fully segregated. You don't see the women at all. You see them in the hall when you're meditating, but it's very dimly lit. They enter from the other side. We enter from this side. You go to your mat and you face forward, and it's still and quiet. And when you leave, your head's down and you're going out, so they're there, but you can't see their faces. And I didn't wear my contacts all week, which was really cool. I haven't gone without contacts for 10 days in 35 years. So that felt good. And it made it easier not to make eye contact because I can't see. So
Yeah.
I didn't wear my. Hey, what's up?
Okay, so I mean, I think you kind of touched on this, but they have you there with other people so that you kind of don't feel like you're alone and that you're experiencing it while other people are experiencing a similar ex- situation. Or like you can't go there on your own because it would be a little bit of a different experience than having multiple people there with you going through the same thing. Is that why they do it with people, multiple people, or?
I don't know. It's a great question. It's one I didn't ask, but I would say that. There's the meditation hall, which is basically a gymnasium with a male and a female teacher up front, sitting in their crisscross applesauce with their thing and their
But no
ponies.
words. They don't say anything to you.
Oh, they would say some things, very, very limited. And there was an audio tape that would play. The guy's voice, this dead guy, like, okay, this was the most annoying thing. we would sit down and the guy would hit the tape and you'd hear, start again, start again. And you wanted to just throat punch this guy, right? Because that meant, oh, okay, now the panic would start to set in. Oh, start again. Holy shit. Okay, I got an hour. So the first thought is, oh my God, I have an hour. How am I going to get through this hour? How am I going to get through this hour? And then you settle in on the breath. You start with your breath. And then all of a sudden, it comes to an end. And then the chanting would start. You'd find yourself waiting for the chanting because the chanting meant 5-minute countdown. We're at the end of the hour. But you never knew if you were 10 minutes away or 40 minutes away.
So you have no concept of time when you're meditating.
None.
Okay.
None at all. And that was a really weird experience. And there were sometimes, like towards the end, we would start. And once I shifted to a bench, I was trying to do the whole crisscross thing that wasn't working for me. I'm not
Yeah.
flexible. It was
No.
excruciating. I shifted to the bench and it was slightly less painful and then it became completely manageable. So I could do the hour. The last 4 days, I was able to do the full 1 hour every time without any movement at all. Not moving my hands, not moving my feet, not changing my posture, just going through the whole time. And there were times where the chanting would come, which meant the hour was up. And my first thought was, holy shit, wow, that was fast. And there were other times where you were like washing up on shore from a shipwreck and just like, oh God, thank God this is over. And I would just roll off the stool and wouldn't be able to stand up because my legs would be so numb and everything in between. But some of the best meditative experiences I had were by myself in the woods. Unbelievable.
Why don't you tell us about some of the wood experiences?
Oh, I don't know if the people are ready for that.
I wasn't ready, but I think it gave me a better understanding of
Well, I met my
what you went through.
my 8-year-old me,
That was blowing my mind.
Chucky, 8 years old, 4th grade, Sweetser School. I was introduced personally. So how that went down was really weird. So I went out in the woods one time. I don't know what day it was. And I would do my usual routine after lunch. And I would go to the top of the hill and I would sit on a bench or I would stand on this log or box and just either watch the woods, watch the animals, listen to the sounds. And that became fascinating. The woods turned into the best movie I've ever seen. So I could never get the concept of take a walk in the woods and then just enjoy and be at peace and be calm. That to me, I want to, punch myself in the face. I don't even know how you process enjoying that. I was able to do that every time, to get out in those woods and just enjoy it and just be totally in that moment, watching the leaves fall, hearing the wind, hearing the birds, watching the squirrels, watching the chipmunks. I had a deer come up. So that was fascinating. One of those times, I'd close my eyes and I 10 or 15 minutes, and then I would go back to the room and do the routine. One of those times I thought it was 15 minutes and I heard the bell ring. So I went down and I thought it was the bell to start lunch, to start dinner. And it was the bell to go to the next session, which meant I was in the woods for 2 hours. I thought I was there for 10 minutes. And I had either a psychotic break or a spiritual experience or something in between where I met something that told me I was loved and I was safe. And there was another thing that said, yeah, everything's good. We're here. We're always here. What do you want to do? It reminded me of the book, The Shack, where the guy goes to the shack and all of a sudden he wakes up and there's people in the house cooking and there's a gardener and this and that. And it turns out that it's like Jesus and God and all this other stuff. So Yeah, I had something like that, and it was
It's really
mindful, and I couldn't get back there. So every time then that becomes so that was so impactful. And then I would go back out in the woods, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm back. Nothing.
like, where are you?
Yeah, what's up? How do you do that?
Come
Right?
back.
That's a kick in the balls, right? You give me this great thing, and now you dipped out. Come back. So there was shades of that, but I never got back to that full experience, and that's part of the teaching. So part of the teaching is there's two big components to the teaching that cause us suffering. We have an aversion to things that we don't like. So fears about the future or regrets from the past, we think about them, we have an aversion. We mentally try to push them away. And by doing that, we create more of that. Okay? The same thing happens on the flip side. The other side of that same coin is we have, and I forget the term, but we want things more. Like I was seeking, I wanted to repeat that experience.
Hmm.
And that's just as bad as pushing away the negative. You don't want to go and seek that positive again. The whole idea of the meditation at the end of the day, the whole idea of it is this: be still and observe whatever comes by and try not to have any emotion of what passes by. And by passing by, these are the thoughts that come through your head, right? Oh, that's a really terrible memory. And it makes me feel like crap. And now I have all this regret. And now my body reacts a certain way. So that's the other thing, right? Your body acts as if the thing is happening right now,
Hmm.
right? And that's where the pain comes from. So you feel it, and then you realize this, that wow, that thought came out of nowhere. I have no idea where it came from. I didn't tell myself, hey, let's think about that really bad thing. It just popped up, right? It just came up. And then the related feelings came along with it. And then at some point, it goes away. And I don't know where it came from, and I don't know where it went. And that's kind of the point, that everything will rise and then pass away. Everything. The best moment, the worst moment, and all you ever have is now. So that was a big, 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 big takeaway. Um, and so many parallels with recovery the whole time, right? So like this too shall pass, right? It's in every AA room, NA room that I've ever been in, that little slogan. Well, if you break that down, this too shall pass. Whatever's going on, you're feeling lousy, okay, it'll pass, right? It'll end. The best feeling you've ever had, think about the best moment of your life emotionally, it's gone. It came and it went. And think about the worst thing, it came and it went. The challenge is that anxiety comes from when the thought comes and the emotion comes and we get stuck in that and we're acting as if no, this time's different, it's never going to end, this is awful, and we're creating these narratives. We're living in a movie that's totally made up, and our body's acting as if it's real and it's happening right now,
Yeah.
right? So if you can break out of that, and there were times in there in the midst of having just incredible experiences, I had 2 or 3 really dark nights of the soul at night where I had all the tools and I knew, okay, there's nothing has changed. I've had not one external input,
Yeah.
right, in 7 days, but somehow the world has changed and my life is awful and I'm going to get fired and I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to be able to pay for Kylie's wedding and Cassie's getting, what am I going to do here? And like everything is just so overwhelming. And then you realize, all right, nothing has changed, but then you can't break out of it. But then an hour or two later, you realize, oh, I'm not thinking about that anymore. So where did that go? What happened? Nothing happened to cause that. Nothing happened to make it go away. So if you can realize when that comes up, oh, here it comes. It's going to feel crappy, and I'm going to feel it until I don't feel it, and then it will pass away, whether it's quickly or slowly, but it will fade away. So that was kind of fascinating takeaway. But why do they put all the people together? I don't know. I've meditated every day since I got back, but my meditation bench has not arrived, and the pillows are just not working for me. So it's been difficult. It's been difficult maintaining. I'm getting distracted. How funny is this? So now when I first sat in the first meditation and I realized it was not a guided meditation, it was 100% silent. I was like, there's just no way. Give me a bell every minute or give me something.
Yeah.
I couldn't fathom that I could do it. Now, I've listened to guided meditations the last 3 days, and I want to smash my phone because I'm getting to that place of peace, and then the guy will guide something. I'm like, I don't need you to guide. I shut up. This
But
is the
you're like
quiet part.
you're an advanced meditation man now. So people
I
that are
don't.
like, well, I'm just saying, like, a lot of people just scratch the surface, I think. And so they might be like, a guided meditation might be more useful for someone like me who
Yeah,
has never tried to meditate, right? I think that's kind of the idea, is to like, there's like levels to it. So that would maybe be better for someone like me who's never done it. But
yeah,
maybe for you, now that you've been able to reach that like highest level of peace, I I probably couldn't get there like the first couple times from having no experience at all. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Whoops. I don't know what happened there. Sorry. Malfunction. Whoa. We're having all kinds of malfunctions here. What happened? Stand by.
Stand by.
Might be an earthquake. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't, of all the guys I talked to, again, guys that were, one guy I'm thinking, Frank, he was 81. This is his 14th 10-day meditation. And I asked him the question, so is it easy? No, this one was, he said, this was one of my most difficult. Like, I was not expecting that. So that's
Yeah.
another big thing. I would have thought that it would have been linear, right? And like you just said, you're advanced. Like you play little league, and then you play high school ball, and then you play college, and then you do the minors like Vaughn and
Wait,
play pro.
you're experienced. I would, let's take it back. You're experienced, you're not advanced, since it's not linear and you can have like a bad time and a good time. So you're just more experienced, not
Yes,
necessarily more advanced, I think is the way to say it.
way better way to say it. Because I asked the teacher at one point when my legs were killing me. The guy's teaching the class, and he's sitting crisscross applesauce, kind of a nice guy, very quiet. And I said, I want to ask you, is it easy? He said, no, it sucks. I said, how long have you been doing it? 45 years. But he said, I've learned to deal with it, and the discomfort can help me concentrate. So he had a whole answer for it, but it wasn't like an all-star baseball player who says, now I get out on the field and it's just easy, right? Maybe a baseball player doesn't say that. So there's experience, you're not advanced. And I don't think anybody's really advanced. I think the whole point of this is I got a taste of something. So here's the punchline. I've been home. We were dismissed from the facility at about 9:30 on Sunday morning. I have not had my phone for 11 days at this point. I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't know everything from, is there a nuclear war in the Middle East, to, did Florida State, are they still undefeated? And everything in between. I want to call you guys. I want to call the kids. I want to see pictures of Delaney and Quinn and check in on Nan and Gramp. I get in the car and I look at the phone and I drive 2 hours before I turn the phone on. I just want to feel what happened. And when I get home, I make a couple of calls. I talk to you guys, talk to Nan and Grant, let everyone know I'm alive. Because I started to read the text messages after about an hour and a half. And somehow everybody, I think Chad, misunderstood that I was supposed to come home on Friday. So there was thought that maybe I was dead in a river somewhere out in Western Massachusetts, or held up in a hotel somewhere. I escaped, and I just wasn't
In
telling anybody.
your fake hotel where you actually went instead of the meditation.
Yeah. So I said, I got to do that. But as soon as I touched base with everybody, and thank God it was a great. So Sunday the weather was warm and sunny, and there was a lot of activity when I got home, like Spot Pond in the woods. I came home. unpacked, got my bike, threw it in the truck, and right up to the sheepfold. And instead of barreling through the woods like I usually do on the mountain bike, I biked to the pond, one of the ponds on the other side, laid the bike down, and sat on a rock for an hour and just sat. I couldn't do that before. One of the notes I took was I'm not afraid of the silence anymore. You know, I'm a guy, you know this, right? I have not slept without a TV on and a fan on ever,
Ever.
right? Right. As soon as I wake up in the morning, there's put the news on. There's constant drone of activity in the background. Sitting in the having somebody sit in the house by themselves to me was frightening. I couldn't like that freaked me out. What are you doing? Nothing. Why isn't the TV on? Well, what? I don't want to watch it. Yeah, I know, but why isn't it just on? Like, why isn't it just making noise in the background? This is weird. You're sitting by yourself. No. Oh, okay. I gotta go because I can't do this. And now I've watched maybe 10 minutes of news since I've been home. I have no desire. I meditated so far every day. I haven't taken their recommendation, hour in the morning, hour at night, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here. So I haven't done that. But I bet I'll be at a good, I'll do an hour a day and then a second hour half the week, I bet, once I get my stool. Because it's great. It's really good. Like I wouldn't be doing it. Like there's no one here telling me to do it. I'm not trying to prove something to you guys. You don't know if I'm doing it or not. No one else. I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and do it. The takeaways, I have a water bottle. I don't drink water. Now I drink water.
You've never seen you drink water in your life.
Now I carry around a water bottle, so I'm that guy. I eat
You're
oatmeal in the
you're a
morning.
different man.
And I hope I can sustain it. Right? I hope it's
Me too.
sustainable. Yeah. So, and it was, I'll tell you one of the real simple things you wanna fascinate yourself. Next time you're out with Quinn, sit and watch squirrels in the tree. Not squirrels on the ground, squirrels in the tree, especially if you're in the woods. Squirrels, like the bear and a porcupine, they'll climb a tree and they'll back down the tree. The squirrel runs face
Mhm.
down the tree like a complete psychopath. And I would watch the squirrels just jump top of the tree and then sprint and then chase each other and play. And you could almost hear them laughing. You knew when they were playing, you knew when they were pissed off. Chipmunks would get mad at you because they'd come running back with their mouths filled with nuts. And then they'd realize you were standing there and they'd just stare at you. And I swear you could hear them be like, dude, what are you doing? You're on top of my house. And then they would stare at you and then they would go into their hole. But they would wait a minute, like they weren't going to go in the hole if you were going to go hurt them because they didn't want you to know where their house was. But once they
Yeah.
got comfortable, they go right in their hole. Big old filled like mouth like this, filled with stuff. Um, yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I would recommend it to anybody.
What was your biggest takeaway? Like, what do you feel like you gained out of this?
That I can gain control of my mind at absolutely any time. I can achieve that spot at any time. That's a simple takeaway. That I can stare out the window and find the tree and the wind and just whatever's going on just as entertaining as a movie. I don't need to watch. I don't need to be distracted by something else. And I think that's one of the things that that's a movie. And then you learn that your whole body, like the real silence, once you go real silent in the meditation, so this whole Vipassana, it's called insight meditation. So you're scanning your body and then your body becomes a movie. So when the whole hour just goes by like that, it's because you're feeling sensations all over your body. Here's a fun exercise. Sit quietly, close your eyes, Focus on your breath. Count in, out, in, out. Don't move. And within minutes, you'll feel an itch. You'll want to itch, or you'll want to move. You'll have a bodily sensation to do something. Resist it. Focus on it. With your eyes closed, stare at it like the itch is right here. Stare at it. Don't move. Don't itch it, and it will get bad, and then it will go away. It does not require a reaction. You don't have to you're not required to touch that. It will go away on its own. And that's what you realize. These sensations rise up and then they fall away. And you just observe them. You just observe them. There's one, I was staring at the river one day and I was watching the leaves fall into the river. And you can see the current. Small river, was a creek. You can see the current down the middle, but that's all you could see. And the leaves would fall, and some of the leaves, I envisioned the leaves were like people. Some leaves would land in the river, and they would just land perfectly in the stream and flow down. Others would land just on the edge of the stream. They wouldn't make the stream, right? And they're just stuck there forever. Others would make the stream and then go and they get stuck on a tree branch. But the fascinating part was I would watch them and the leaf would go down and then all of a sudden it would go like this and it would start coming back up. Now you couldn't see the current underneath going that way, but the leaf would go back up. And then there was a point up here where it would come back into the current and it would come back down and then it would get stuck over here. And somehow to me, that was the metaphor for like alcoholism and addiction. Like I felt like that was Chuck stuck for 20 years in this thing. I was the leaf. I thought I was on the creek. I thought I was in the stream. I was on the stream. I was doing good. And oh shit, here we go again. And now I'm over here and it's not that bad, but now I'm going backwards. And now I'm repeating these same cycles.
Like your relapses, were you going back?
Relapses, physical relapses of drinking again, but then the mental relapses of just not having, even in sobriety, right? Not having the confidence to be able to go and do business again and be successful and all that. That's 100% self-imposed. I've never been able to get back to where I was before, I burned it all to the ground, which is, that's a huge regret and a huge mental block as to why. I mean, I know it's 100% me. I know that like right now things are different. Things are starting to flow again and all that. There's some confidence. I'm up here. This is my network. I'm able to activate that. I have confidence and things are finally coming back together. The frustration is going to come when I realize that I could have done that 20 years ago, but I didn't, right? Nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Other than I realized it was there.
But that's okay because you're doing it now. But I think you may just feel frustrated with yourself for why you weren't able to do it back then. But that's in the past. And this whole meditation journey is to try to stay focused on the present. So I wouldn't even worry about that at this point. It's in the past.
So another interesting thing was, again, complete psychotic break. This full conversations, people are talking to me many times during this. Don't know who they are, but they're there. It's as real as this. And I remember we couldn't write. So I wanted to journal. I wanted to take notes. You're not allowed to write. And I remember thinking, wow, that's so good. I want to bring that to the men's house, and I can't wait to do this. And how am I going to forget? And how am I going to remember? And I remember as clear as this, the voice said, I got it. Focus on now. And when you need to remember that in the future, it'll be available for you. Everything is always available when you need it. We spend all of our time. So I'm looking at you in a podcast right here. I'm in the present right now. I spend all the time looking for you over you. So I'm searching for stuff, but the stuff I need is right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I don't see it because I'm searching for something else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just come back and observe, everything will be right here. And you just have to be alert to it. Like, here it is. Oh, yeah, wow. Look at that. Instead of trying to make it happen.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because I told you too when we first talked, when you got out, I was thinking you were going to have so many great ideas while you were in there. And I was so worried that you wouldn't be able to write them down or tell anyone. So I'm glad that you'll now have them when you need them. So that's awesome.
Well, and so I believe that's true. And I have absolutely no anxiety. So I can remember right now that I had 10,000 great thoughts where to be able to bring this experience to these guys and be able to share with them what I just experienced. Again, because I experienced it, not, hey, I read a book, or hey, I think you should meditate, or this.
Right.
Hey guys, I just did this, and this is what I think. So I know I had great ideas. I have no idea what they are, but I know I'll get them. So there's no anxiety of like sitting down with a piece of paper
Yeah.
going, I have to remember these things right now. I don't need them now. When I need them, they'll be there.
But it's
And
cool that you don't
it's
have to feel like that anymore because now you understand like the whole thing, the bigger picture here. If when you need it, it'll come. So now
yeah,
you never have to worry about that again, you know?
yeah. But the trick is you'll forget that. Like you. That's why
Like
it's
like you forget everything, right? You know?
and the whole idea is to bring yourself back and to remind yourself, like, oh, okay, okay, all right, that's that feeling. Okay, this will pass. What happened? Okay, breathe, and then you can reset
Yeah.
at any moment, right? You can reset that at any moment. And again, AA, you can start your day over at any time. So
Hmm.
so many parallels, right?
Yeah.
You can't you can't drink without thinking of drinking.
Hmm.
I drank because I didn't like the way I felt. I drank to change the way I felt.
Right.
My bad feelings typically came from feeling badly about things I had done in the past or fear about things that may happen in the future, which usually never happened. Some of the
Right.
stories I told myself, at one point I saw two fighter jets fly over. I was in the woods. I looked up, two fighter jets flew over. And I 100% convinced myself that the war in the Middle East had turned nuclear and that Washington, D.C. had been hit with a nuclear bomb attack. And that at the next meditation sitting, the teachers were going to come in and explain that to us and dismiss us that the United States has been attacked, the nuclear war has started, and we're going to shut down and you got to go home. Like it was absolutely 100% real.
Yeah.
And so many other stories, so many other stories, and not one of them was even close. And then looking back at it, the anxiety, the torment, none of it was real. None of it
No.
was real.
The mind is a powerful place.
It's all mind. It's all the mind. So if you can just come back and realize it's just, sit back and watch it happen, drink your water, went to Whole Foods and bought oatmeal.
I love the oatmeal.
And I never had oatmeal before. I had oatmeal every day. Now I love oatmeal. So that was
So
the first.
funny.
And then, it was a vegan diet. There was no food after 11 o'clock every day. At night, you got a cup of tea and a banana at 5 o'clock. That was it. So you better have liked oatmeal because it was oatmeal and prunes. And at that point, you hadn't eaten in 18 hours. I would chew through the plate, the oatmeal. I would eat every
Oh my
oat.
God.
There would be nothing left on the. I
Licking the
would
bowl.
every single thing. Yeah, insane. And then some of the food, 3 days I couldn't even pronounce it. And I realized this: if you're hungry, you'll eat whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
Tofu, 3 days. The food was so bad. By day 10, they gave us a veggie burger, but they gave us a real bun, like an American bun, with sliced tomato and lettuce and Heinz ketchup. I thought I was at Morton's Steakhouse.
Oh, that's so
A
good.
veggie burger, like I'm eating a Big Mac, just smashing it. Like, oh, it's so good.
Oh my God.
So good.
You were just hungry, probably.
I'm starving.
It's starving.
absolutely starving. So yeah, all things considered, we'll keep talking about it, but the challenge would be to see if it's sustainable. You know,
Hmm.
the way I've never felt better in my life than I did for the 24 hours coming out. So that high is kind of the reality of life is kind of taken over a little bit. So
Yeah.
that was phenomenal. But the memory that you can keep doing it and it's right there. And again, I think the practice of being sober is huge. So
Yeah.
come out of a treatment center or a detox, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, like repeat what you were doing in here out here.
Hmm.
So take it home, eating. So I'm trying to maintain. I lost 10 pounds, drinking the water, very limited caffeine, 2 coffees a day. Do the meditation, try to keep doing more meditation. So try to carry that out
Like a
immediately.
lifestyle change. Like you're trying to not just
It's a
have
life,
like a
it's a
small
lifestyle
experience. You're
change.
trying to shift everything in
That's a
a
great,
manageable way.
that's a great explanation. I don't want it to be an experience.
Right.
I want it to be a maintained lifestyle change.
Hmm.
So, and the way to do that is to stop. Like I think if I didn't meditate the first day coming home, that
Right.
that would have been it, right? So that was important. I said, and that was cool. I set the alarm for 5:30, but I got up at 4 ahead of the alarm,
Oh,
and I came
wow.
out in the quiet and just sat and did my meditation and I've done it every day and I'll do it tomorrow. And I looked up a group meditation this weekend in Cambridge. So to your other point, I don't know why they put you in a group, um, but I can tell you that there's a collective energy
Hmm.
in that group that you can feel, kind of probably like going to church.
Yeah.
Difference between praying and by yourself and praying
Yeah. I
in a
feel
big
like
group.
I feel like that might be part of it, to have, I mean, obviously I didn't go, so I have no idea, but I think it probably feels better, and you could probably say that it probably felt better that you had other people experiencing that with you rather than being fully alone.
So we were assigned, I think, after day 5 or day 6, we were assigned. It was called a pagoda cell. So there's like a pagoda, which is a church, and it's this big Indian, Buddhist, whatever. And on the outside, it's really pretty and white and gold and ornate. And you picture that it's 2 or 3 stories. So I'm figuring it's like a church. So we're going to walk inside there finally, and it's going to be a big open space and all that. And it's not. It's a series of 3 foot by 2 foot rooms called cells. And you meditate in there by yourself.
Mm.
And I only did that twice. I didn't like it. I did not like being in the cell by myself. The um, I found the hall much more effective.
Yeah.
But really, I
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
oh sorry, I got a call. I love the woods too. So being in this, I did not like the cell. I definitely felt the connection in the woods. I definitely felt the connection in the group, but I didn't realize that I felt the connection in the group until I went and did the individual cell.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's scratching the surface. We can go deeper down the road. And the parallels to recovery, I mean, we could just stay on one piece at a time, and that's the game changer, right? That was the whole point, right? I had squeezed every drop of water out of traditional recovery.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 11 years in a row, but I've been in the rooms for 90% of the last 25 years,
Hmm.
and I needed more. It was a very dark winter up here, and
Hmm.
and I was still going to meetings, and I wasn't drinking, and I didn't want to drink, but the stuff going on upstairs was as bad as it's ever been. So something had to give, and it did.
Well, we're super proud of you for making it through the whole thing.
Oh, thank you. I was going to make it. There were times where I just treated it like Navy SEAL training or Cole being at West Point. I'm saying, you know what? I'm not leaving. I might
Not
not learn.
leaving.
I might not learn anything. I might not meditate. I might die, but I am not ringing the bell. I am absolutely not leaving. But it's tough. You wake up and there's a three, and you go, oh my! It's only the third day.
Probably
One
felt like
day,
a lifetime.
one day it rained. Day three it rained. It was awful, cold, rainy. Only day three, and then day four I had my best meditation ever at night, and it
Hmm.
snowed. It was like a Thomas Kincaid postcard. The barns and big snowflakes, and it snowed all day, and it's on the trees. We got about an inch of snow. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And I was able to walk around in that, and then some really warm, nice weather days helped a lot. The good weather helped a lot. And if there wasn't walking trails, if this was done in an urban setting, and there wasn't the ability to walk outside and see a creek and watch the squirrels run suicidally down trees, I don't know that it would have been as the same experience.
Yeah.
That fascinated me. I know that
Did you not know that they did that?
I never watched them at the speed that they go down,
Yeah.
reckless abandon. I know that squirrels wake up after the chipmunks. I
Hmm.
was in the woods every day before the forest wakes up. You hear the forest wake up. It doesn't wake up until the sun breaks.
Hmm.
And then you'll hear the first bird over in the distance. And then you'll hear another over there. And then you'll hear the leaves rustle. And I swear, when you're sitting there with your eyes closed, you can almost picture the chipmunk going, all right, let's do it. And then the birds start to get louder. And then the squirrels come out. And then at night, the same thing. And there's no noise when it rains. The forest is quiet in the rain,
Yep.
but there's no birds, there's no chipmunks, there's no leaves rustling. There's just quiet. It's still. So yeah, the things you notice a lot more.
Hmm.
You notice a lot more. And I think that's the point. You can just sit outside, sit on your porch tonight and just be present and see what you notice. Don't look for anything.
Yeah.
Just see what appears and see what's different. You find yourself talking to the tree. How old are you? Why did you grow this way? Why does he bend that way? Why are all the
Hmm.
dead leaves still on this tree? Why are these leaves still green? Why is there green on the ground? Why is it's just all of these things like that you just wouldn't notice. I heard a tree fall in the woods, a giant tree. Just fell. Boom. Fascinating. Right? Not interesting to you. To me, I'm like, wow, I
No,
was here.
it's not interesting to me. I just haven't done it.
But you can. I don't think you have to go 10 days to realize this.
No, you don't.
Tomorrow at lunch, on your way to work, or the next time you're just taking a walk with Nick or you're outside, just sit down and take 10 breaths or 20 breaths and count them. Lower your heart rate, get present, and just notice. If a thought comes in, try to just, okay, I'm going to think about that later. No. And see what you see.
Yeah.
Be present.
It's
So,
hard. Hard to stay present.
almost impossible.
Hmm.
So, that's why we try.
That's all you
All
can
right.
do.
On that note, I'm going to be present in my bed.
Good
So,
plan.
good plan, coach.